How are you? Good. Who did? That's great. That's wonderful. All right. Matt, Matt, we'll do that during Joys and Sorrows or at the end of the service. You do whatever you want. You could thank people. As we settle into a spirit of worship, first with our prelude, The Great Gate of Kiev, featuring Matt Bajun on the French horn and Matthew Johnson on the piano, I invite you to also light a silent candle of joy or sorrow if you desire. The words of the Reverend Joan Javier Duval. Out of depths unknown, the spark of life ignites, and we are born. We enter a world, a universe not of our own making. Our lives unfold in mystery and wonder. Questions abound, for which there are no definite answers, and so we gather in community to seek in one another assurance and recognition, compassion and strength. We gather in community to be reminded of what is most ultimate and what is most sacred in the spirit of searching and of reverence. Let us worship together this morning. Good morning. Oh, there it is. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester. My name is Aaron Payson, and I am honored to be one of the ministers of this congregation, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. We begin this morning by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc Nation. We offer a special welcome to those of you who are new or visiting us for the first time this morning. We are delighted that you're here. We hope that you'll join us for fellowship following the service in Fellowship Hall with refreshments and conversation. If you have any questions or desire more information about this service or any of the ministries or programs of this congregation, please do not hesitate to ask. We invite you to fill out one of the cards found in the pews this morning. These cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters. For those of you joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome. For safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better, as you're able, please place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of the attendance clipboards that are now being circulated. Though you're not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and will use it only for church purposes. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you would like yours to be read aloud by the minister, please print it on an index card in the pew and drop it either in the collection plate when it comes around, or you can bring it forward and hand it to me during that part of our service. If you would like to share a joy or sorrow and you are online this morning, you're welcome to put it in the chat. Please precede it by the words, "Please read," so that we can find it quickly, and we will share your joys and sorrows as well. Those who place their joys or sorrows on cards, please note they'll be posted outside my office to be shared with our friends at other services. And for those online, you can place your joy or sorrow again in the chat. In the foyer are listening devices and large print services and programs and hymnals for those who find their assistance beneficial. Please see one of our ushers who will be pleased to assist you. I invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. And finally, please note the announcements on the back of your program this morning. There will be a time for brief announcements following the postlude. We are so very glad that you're here, and we hope this morning is an opportunity for rest and reflection and rejuvenation. Our opening words this morning are those of Tanya Marquez. It's a wonder and a mystery that our paths have crossed, that in the immensity of time, in the vastness of space, we coincide here. I am in awe at the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we gather. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, more loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering. I am so glad that you are here. Let us worship. Let us marvel at the miracle of being here, right now, and the mystery that has brought us together. Would you please join in singing our opening hymn, number 226, in your gray hymnals, "People Look East," and rise in body or in spirit. People look east, the time girls, be glad the earth is bare. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish, that in course the flower may flourish. People look east and sing today. Love the rose is on the way. Stars keep their watch when light is dim. One more light the goal shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun, moon together. People look east and sing today. Love, the star is on the way. Please be seated. I now call forth our youth with their baskets of change for change, this weekly opportunity that those who participate in our religious exploration program have to contribute to the ongoing well-being of those in our congregation and community who have a variety of needs. If you have change that you would like to contribute today, please raise your hand so that one of our young ones can find you quickly. The source of the reading that I'm about to share with you was one that was told by Joy Garrison Wasson, who taught English in Muncie, Indiana for over 30 years. She died on October 15, 2009 after a long illness. She was only 62. She says, a group of students were asked to list what they thought were the present 7 wonders of the world. Though there were some disagreements, the following received the most votes. What do you think they were? What do you think they were? The pyramids? The internet? What else? The Great Wall? Come on. Cheese? That's one of the wonders in my world, but I'm not certain it's in anyone else's. The Great Gate of Kyiv, the Taj Mahal, sunrise, Machu Picchu. Well, this is the list that they created: the Great Pyramids of Egypt, the Taj Mahal, the Grand Canyon, the Panama Canal, the Empire State Building, St. Peter's Basilica, and China's Great Wall. While gathering the votes, the teacher noticed that one student had not finished her paper yet. So she asked the girl if she was having trouble with her list. The girl replied, yes, a little. I couldn't quite make up my mind because there are so many. Teacher said, well, tell us what you have and maybe we can help. The girl hesitated and then read, I think the 7 wonders of the world are to see, to hear, to touch, to taste, to smell, to laugh, to love. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The things we overlook, she wrote, as simple and ordinary, and that we take for granted, are truly wondrous.
I'm not quite sure how Aaron introduces this, but we have come to the time when we give. These words are by Erica Hewitt, and it is titled What We Say Yes To. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission to be a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. We are grateful for your generosity. For those of you who would like to contribute digitally this morning, you are invited to text 508-231-5335.
Now we come to that time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts or most profoundly on our minds, or in the work of our hands in the days that have transpired, or in the prospect of days to come. Joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them with a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this morning to come forward and to speak briefly into the microphone, telling us first who you are, so that those using our auditory enhancement devices or joining us online can also participate in this important ritual, and then to light a candle if you so desire. And once again, if you'd like me to read your joy or sorrow, you're welcome to bring it forward on a card. And for those of you online, once again, you're welcome to place your joy or sorrow in the chat, and we will make certain to share that as well. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day?
Hi, my name is Pat. My ask is for Reverend Margaret Beckman, who's a UU minister at Castine Church up in Maine, and she's started treatment for cancer. And so if you could just send her some good thoughts, we'd appreciate it.
Continuing the Castine meditation, we heard this morning that 4 students from the Maine Maritime Academy, 2 of which were from Massachusetts, were killed in a vehicle accident last night, a week after the semester had ended for the fall. So we know that the community is reeling, the school is reeling. I'm certain Margaret and the congregation are in the midst of all of that. So we share with them our deepest sympathy and thoughts for healing.
Hi, my name is Laura. As many of you know, I tend to be a private person with things that are going on in my life, but I'm seeing there's a lot of mutual friends on my daughter's Facebook page that is here. So, because I'm already getting phone calls. My daughter has pretty severe mental health challenges, which she loves to post online. And making it public, which is not only embarrassing to me, but misinformation. So it's very difficult for me to process all this stuff and try to live my life and raise my grandson. So I totally appreciate the people reaching out to me. Just do it with a grain of salt. I'm trying to live my life without my daughter. So to hear the latest fiasco that's going on in her life just kind of brings back bad memories of this past year. I think I deserve that, and I also think my grandson that I'm raising deserves a happy household without chaos. She visited last week and she stole from me. So things are not going to get better. I'm just saying that out there because I'm seeing so many of your faces on her Facebook page. Just know that Mason and I are doing okay, and I have to let that part of my life go. I love you all for reaching out, though.
Good morning. My name is Pauline. I'm the shoebox lady. And I just wanted you to know that all of the shoeboxes, all of the children have been spoken for. When you go into Fellowship Hall, you'll see that there are already quite a few boxes that have arrived. I just wanted to mention that next Sunday is the last drop-off date, and the person will be here between 1 and 1:30, I think, to pick up all of the boxes. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
My name is Jessie, and I have a very great sorrow to share. On November 30th, my little 3-year-old nephew died from complications of COVID. And last weekend, or on Monday, we were in New York for his funeral, which was possibly the hardest thing I've ever done. And watching my sister and her husband and my mother-in-law, who spent every day with him, go through this grief is extremely difficult. And I guess if I had a joy, it would be in how much support they have received and our family has received from people all over the world who have never met them, who have sent well wishes and prayers and donations. They are a farming family and always live on the edge, but will have a very rough winter ahead of them. So thank you all for all of your support, and please keep Carrie and Dan and their little daughter Chloe and my mother-in-law Terry in your prayers.
Hi, I'm Mara Pentlarge, another death. But my husband, who died this past week, was 70, not 3. He fell down the stairs. He had decided not to move with me to the in-law apartment by our daughter's house, so he was living by himself. The funeral is tomorrow here. Let me tell you, when something like this happens, you really want to be in a church. Everybody's going to wear masks tomorrow because COVID is out there. Our daughter is at emergency health getting a true COVID test right now because the one she did at home was like, what's it saying? So thanks all.
Hi, good morning. I'm Beth Posner-Waldron, and I'm lighting a candle this morning for Mara and her family. And I know Aaron put this in the weekend reminder about the service tomorrow. One of the things that I really think about Ed is, like Mara, he was a champion against climate change, and part of our heat in Fellowship Hall is from his efforts to put in these solar panels that are on the outside, and so that's how I remember Ed. I'm also just sharing my joy this week that democracy prevailed in the runoff election in Georgia. There were a lot of efforts reaching out to particularly Black people to get out to vote in a compressed voting session of only, I think it was 5 weeks rather than the normal 9, because that's how they changed it in Georgia to make it more difficult for people to vote. You couldn't even register to vote for the runoff election because it was the day before the general election was the deadline. So anyway, won't go into any more detail about that, just that people got out to vote, and the person who lost conceded the loss right away, did not challenge it, did not, make up things that weren't true. So that's another part of our democracy in work.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael. Good news. My mom's labs came okay. She still has cancer, but it's getting better. The treatment she's on is helping. And tomorrow I'm getting an MRI to check if I have cancer in my lungs, because they found nodules a couple months ago. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.
All right. He's still feeling better, still in COVID isolation, and he should be back next week.
Great. So Paul Maher is another who has been suffering from COVID, and he's in recovery very well. In addition, I know many of you watched the news this week, so we are also celebrating the return of Brittany Griner country and continue to support those and to demand the return of Paul Thiel as well. It has been indeed a busy week here. Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. O Holy One, Spirit of life within and beyond, we come together this morning in shared grief for the loss of young life and for the loss of a life well lived. We come mindful of the preciousness of community at times when we mourn and when times when we celebrate. We come with healing thoughts for those in search of wholeness. We come with gratitude in our hearts for those who work to better our world. We come remembering those who continue to strive for healing and for hope. During this season of wonder, might we find the opportunity to pause and to remember ourselves deep into the life that compels us forward, and not forget those moments that bring us to awe, that bring us to peace, that bring us hope and courage. For all of this, for all that has been spoken and all that has transcended the spoken word this day, we give great and abiding thanks. Amen. And blessed be. grant us peace indeed. The essayist, author, and poet Maria Popova once opined about the Nobel-winning physicist Richard Feynman, saying, "Every once in a while, and perhaps once or twice a century, if we're lucky, atoms shed by dying stars constellate into a living mind so shimmering, so uncommonly gifted in multiple fathoming languages that poems and paintings, elegies and equations, theorems and songs spring from it with equal ardor and equal beauty." Rebecca Ellison was one, Richard Feynman was another. A Nobel-winning physicist, a philosopher, an artist, a composer of the world's most lyrical footnote and most bittersweet love letter, who saw no boundary between knowledge and mystery, between our different modes of fathoming reality and serenading the wonder of the universe that made us. In the autumn of 1955, a decade before he won the Nobel Prize for his groundbreaking work in quantum electrodynamics, Feynman took the podium at the National Academy of Sciences to contemplate the value of science. Midway through his characteristically eloquent and intellectually eloquent lecture, addressing the country's most orthodox audience of academic scientists, he burst into what can best be described as a splendid prose poem about the mystery and wonder of life, inspired by a reflective moment he spent along on the edge of the sea, where Rachel Carson, too, found the meaning of life. What did Feynman say in his Ode to the Wonder of Life? Just this: I stand at the seashore alone and start to think. There are the rushing waves, mountains of molecules, each stupidly minding its own business, trillions apart, yet forming white surf in unison. Ages on ages, before any eyes could see, year after year, thunderously pounding the shore as now. For whom? For what? On a dead planet with no life to entertain. Never at rest, tortured by energy, wasted prodigiously by the sun, poured into space, a might makes the sea roar. Deep in the sea, all molecules repeat the patterns of one another till complex new ones are formed. They make others like themselves, and a new dance starts. Growing in size and complexity, living things, masses of atoms, DNA, protein, dancing a pattern ever more intricate. Out of the cradle onto dry land, here it is standing. Atoms with consciousness, matter with curiosity, stands at the sea, wonders at wondering. I, a universe of atoms, an atom in the universe. His words echo those of another poet, Steve Taylor, who penned, "Don't forget the sheer strangeness of this world of form, where matter pulses with consciousness and shimmers with waves of light into infinite expressions and variations. of the same rich source, the same elemental theme, the same essential sound in different frequencies, this roaring, teeming swell of life, the brightness and the shining nakedness of now, and awe-inspiring isness of the nameless real. What I think both are striving to describe is the indescribable wonder and awe that is the substance of that pause when we stop doing and have a moment of pure being. The outcome of which I think leads to the essence of the story shared earlier in this service about what are the real wonders of the world. These moments are part of the art and practice of contemplation, which comes in many forms: meditation, yoga, Zhizhong, Tai Chi, contemplative prayer, Taizé singing, or chanting Om, just to name a few. And as the psychologist William Van Gordon notes, such contemplation should be distinguished from other forms of thinking, such as rumination and reminiscing and remembering and problem solving, or simply being absorbed in a task. He writes, irrespective of whether a person wishes to approach it from a psychological, religious, or spiritual, philosophical, or personal development, or professional practice perspective, contemplation appears to be an integral to how human beings construct meaningful lives and relate to the world that they live in. Although contemplation can take many forms, I personally like to think of it as a means by which we can break from the habitual ways of thinking and behaving in order to actually experience our existence, writes the psychologist. All too often, people get so absorbed in tackling life's problems, trying to make enough money, and living the rat race more generally, that they forget to take stock in their existence and reflect on what's truly important. And this is a shame, he says. Without developing contemplative awareness in whatever form it might be, we not only ignore a wealth of research findings, but also the advice of various ancient and modern traditions concerned with healthy living. The 17th century French philosopher René Descartes asserted that I think, therefore I am. However, writes the psychologist, it follows logically that if I am not aware, I think, I am not aware that I am. In other words, unless we regularly take time to step back in order to observe and fully experience ourselves living, thinking, and being, then it's difficult to come to a meaningful understanding of who we really are and how we want to grow as a human being. Not regularly allowing the heart and the mind to be nourished by contemplation also means that rather than live life, we run the risk of being lived by life, which may lead to feelings of regret during later stages. I think this is why experiencing people at different stages of life is so incredibly important as a way of maintaining both perspective and wonder. And we experienced some of that this morning as we contemplated a life cut short at 3 years and one that ended at 70. And the span between, and what it all means. 20 years ago or so, I wrote about an experience with my family. How many of you were here 21 years ago? A couple of you? A few of you? So you may have heard this story before, I'm just saying, okay? But I wrote it and I used it once. So I figure using it again in 20 years is not so bad, especially if it makes a point. It was written in the style of Garrison Keillor in his stories from Wobegon Lake, or Lake Wobegon, came to mind this week as Kristen and I made our annual trek into the tree stands of Worcester County, the Worcester County countryside, and waited until one of them spoke to her. And as is tradition, my job was to be Vanna White to her Pat Sajak by holding all the trees erect and posing for pictures with them that were then shared with our daughter, who commented from afar as to the quality of the choice. When she was much younger, the story went like this. Well, it's been a quiet week here on Indian Lake, the place where time moves faster than the traffic on Holden Street, giving it an aggregate speed of approximately 82.3 miles per hour. It's the holiday season and Christmas is almost upon us, and this week Parson Payson's daughter had a birthday. It's a couple weeks from now. It was only 2 short years ago that Ms. Morgan graced the planet with her presence, and the parson and his wife haven't slept since. Building on the theory that nocturnal deprivation is good for the soul, the good parson has spent his nights this week preparing for what will probably be little Morgan's first Christmas memory. The adventure began with the purchase of a Douglas fir from Ballantyne's Beetle Emporium, where Dave, the termite guy, moonlights this time of year as a lumberjack and hunts the great pine log. Usually, the parson and his wife set out on an annual adventure to hunt the elusive nettled shrub themselves, but this year, the Payson's Christmas came 2 months early with the arrival of Morgan's little brother, Charlie, who has kept his mother plastered to the back of the lazy boy. Actually, at birth, Charlie weighed 13 pounds, which means by now he's eating steak, and the reason his mother's still in her chair is because the past few days he's been looking for the car keys and she's sitting on them. When the tree finally made it into the house, having survived a mandatory week of isolation, standing against the backyard fence to test its resilience under extreme stress, how else could they have been sure it would survive Morgan's mania? The parsons set to work to make the 8-foot fir fit its 6-foot environs. Amidst the supervisory savvy of his wife from her chair, oh, how that woman has an eye for the perpendicular. 2 saws, a tourniquet, and a half a box of Band-Aids later, the tree stood straight as an arrow, bending east. Much to the parson's chagrin, the wife decided to only put 2 or 3 of the 12 dozen or so sets of lights they had collected since their first Christmas together 8 years ago, and Morgan pronounced Christmas lights petty. Christmas lights pretty to a 2-year-old. And oh, how surprised she was when they began to blink. Oh, look, Daddy, Boken. The parson explained that pretty lights wink at pretty little girls. So she returned the compliment and blinked back at them. The parson's final festive fling was to put together the table and chairs that his wife had bought from the little ones by now. For the little ones, by now Charlie was itching for a chair of his own, being 2 weeks old. Only she didn't tell him it was both unassembled and unfinished. As he opened the box and surveyed the 1,000 or so pieces and perused the instruction book, which was larger than the Indian Lake Yellow Pages, he knew that fatherhood was finally upon him. For years, he had been warned by fathers in the congregation that Christmas Eve was never going to be the same for him ever again. Instead of mulled cider and deep slumber, he'd enter into the land of parental purgatory, the place where fathers and mothers go after midnight on the eve of that most joyous day of the year. As a boy, Parson Payson had had a glimpse of this most hostile environment. He remembered the year that as a toddler when he was awakened by the sound of something crashing downstairs and a voice raised in anger, "These things never come with enough screws! Where the blankety blank blank is my toolkit?" At this, his young brother awoke with a start. "What was that?" "I think it's Santa," said the young parson, "and he's really mad." "How do you know?" I heard him swear." "Oh, do you think he's mad at us?" "I don't think so. I think it's one of his elves forgot a part or something." "You can't trust anyone these days." "Guess not." Parson's brother quickly crawled into bed with him. "Think he went back to get it?" I hope so." There they laid and listened for a minute or two before falling back to sleep next to each other. Now, as he looked at the parts in front of him, Parson Payson knew he wanted his daughter not to think less of Santa for swearing, so he gathered them up and headed for the basement, not before he went back to her room and covered her up and kissed her on the forehead and reminded her that tomorrow was going to be a very big day. Santa was to arrive that night, and he knew it, and he knew that being the parent meant attending to the little things like screws and blankets and kisses on the forehead and tables and chairs and trees that blinked at pretty girls. And that's the news from Indian Lake, where all the women are powerful, all the men are handsome, and all the children are incredibly well adjusted. Returning to moments like these reminds me to pause when such moments arise now. I too can be caught up in the rush of the season and forget with the first snowfall that each crystal mounding upon another should be admired. None of them the same, each bearing a pattern of its own unique formation, which when combined creates a landscape of wonder. Or, as my 2-year-old self once remarked to my mother, Mom, look at the pretty rain." And I hear the words of my colleague, Rebecca Parker, when she ponders, "Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking. The wheels stop rolling. The computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season where holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gesture alters Earth's access toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. Amen, and blessed be. Would you turn to your gray hymnals, number 653. The words of Dory Janine Somers. How short the daylight hours have now become, how gray the skies have barren seen the trees. But there is that in me which reaches up toward light and laughter, bells and carolers. Because it speaks the truths of older myths. And babes are hope and saviors of the world, as miracles abound in common things. Would you please join together in our closing hymn, number 225. Please rise in body or in spirit. Oh, come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart of cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as love to dwell. Oh, come, you splendor very bright, as joy that never yields to might. Oh, come and turn all hearts to peace, that greed and war at last shall cease. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as truth to dwell. Oh, come, you day spring, come and cheer our spirits by your presence here, and drawn in every broken soul, as visions that can see the whole. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as light to dwell. Oh, come, you wisdom from on high, from depths that may within us sigh, to temper knowledge with our care, to render every act a prayer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as hope to dwell. These words of our closing are by my friend and colleague Kendall Gibbons. There is finally only one thing required of us, that is to take life whole, the sunlight and the shadows together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humor and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore, let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, and in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives. Amen, and blessed be. Please be seated. Are there any short announcements to be made today? Nancy? And let me be even more blunt than Nancy. I think we have 3 people that have signed up for 3 different teams to set up, to serve, and to clean up after the Vespers tea. We need far more hands than that. So if you have not yet had an opportunity to sign up online to assist with that effort, I want to encourage you to do so this week as well. I want to remind us also that Ed Raddick's memorial service is at 1 p.m. tomorrow here in the sanctuary. It will also be live streamed on Zoom, so see the weekend reminder if you would like to join online. The link is there as well. Need to turn it on.
I'm grieving, but I'm still worried about the environment. And there is a sweet, gentle group meeting at 4 today online called Worcester Congregations for Climate and Environmental Justice. And I invite any of you to join. Talk to me after. This congregation is one of the congregations. Other churches in Worcester, we're meeting in person at Temple Emmanuel Sinai. Things you can do in Worcester to stop burning so much fossil fuel. Good ideas.
Great. Thank you. And one note about Vespers next week, for those of you who missed the announcement in the order in the messages that have come out the last couple of weeks, this year's Vesper is going to be an opportunity to do something just a bit different. So we used to have a Boar's Head Feast here in Worcester that we did, and Renaissance type things. We're going to do our Vesper service with all of the traditional things that people look forward to, right? Deb Bono playing Snowman during the offertory, candlelight service, a raucous carol sing, music from our soloists and from our choir that will just be extraordinary. And we're going to have our traditional kind of pageant. But this year, we want you to partake in all of this as well. We'll have children here. They will be hopefully involved and invited, but so will you. And here's the invitation. Come dressed for the occasion in whatever festive fare you desire. So if you want to come dressed in medieval or in Renaissance fare that you have, you're welcome to do that. If you want to come dressed as a Christmas tree, you can do that. If you want to come dressed in your best holiday duds, you can do that. Everyone will have an opportunity to be involved as you desire. If you simply want to come as you are, that is most welcome as well. We will have various kinds of costume pieces that people can choose for various parts in the story, but we hope that next week actually takes this week's joyous kind of experience and blows the roof off this place as an opportunity to do Christmas and the winter holidays in a way that just infuses us with joy and awe. And we're going to do both. So I want you to come prepared. I want you to invite your friends and your family, because if there's any good way to introduce this church to newcomers, it is at the holiday Vespers service and the food afterwards, right? So bring your family and friends. We will also be live streaming it for those of you that would rather experience it on Zoom. But come early to find a seat, because the place can get full quickly. And then join us, like we said, for our grand Vespers tea after the service. You're welcome. Hopefully everyone is invited to bring a goodie to share, either a savory or a sweet. And we will have a remarkable time. Christmas Eve is on Saturday this year. Will be a 7 p.m. service here so that those who have family traditions later in the evening can attend those. And then Christmas Day is a Sunday. And I know you all want to get up on Christmas Day and get dressed and go to church, because that's what we do, right? No. We understand that that's an interesting day for a Sunday. So Bethel Lutheran Church and Zion Lutheran, who are yoked together in Grace Ministries, Salem Covenant Church, and this congregation are combining forces and having one single service at 10 a.m. over at Bethel Lutheran in Auburn. For those of you who don't know where Auburn is, it's the other side of the world, straight down 290. So welcome to join us on Christmas morning. Unfortunately, the service will not be live streamed, but we will be posting a video of the service on their feed sometime following the service for people who want to catch it later. I think that's all the announcements that we have this morning. Yes? Rehearse in about 15 minutes. If there is anyone who would like to brave the cold after fellowship hour and help take down the poles from the tent so that we get them down before it snows this afternoon, we could welcome about a dozen people and do it probably in about 20, 25 minutes with that many. But I want you to go have coffee and refreshments and conversation first, and then those of us who want to do that can gather outside. You think that's okay?